When a city starts failing, most people do not starve first. They get trapped first. They get trapped in traffic, trapped in routines, trapped in buildings they thought were safe, trapped by noise, by crowds, by blind corners, by the stupid belief that if they move fast enough and grab enough, they can outrun what is happening around them. And that is why urban scavenging kills so many people who think of it as simple supply gathering. Because in a dead city, you are not walking through a marketplace of abandoned resources. You are walking through a maze full of sightlines, choke points, echoes, witnesses, and desperate people who have already started thinking like animals. Most scavengers enter a city block with one question in their head. What can I take? The people who last longer ask a different one. What can kill me here before I touch anything at all? That is the real difference. Not strength, not speed, not weapons, not gear. The difference is whether you see the city as a pile of loot or as a machine designed to corner the careless. Because every alley narrows. Every storefront window reflects movement. Every stairwell funnels sound. Every rooftop exposes you. Every open door is a question you may not survive long enough to answer. Urban scavenging is not shopping in a broken world. It is movement through a man-made ambush environment where every mistake advertises your position and every delay increases the odds that someone else decides what you're carrying should belong to them instead. These are the 6 rules that separate the people who come back with what they need from the people who disappear 3 blocks from home and never make a sound loud enough for anyone to remember them. Rule number 1. Never enter for supplies until you already know how you are leaving. This is the rule that feels backwards to impatient people, which is exactly why it keeps working. Most failed scavenging runs begin with target fixation. Somebody sees a pharmacy, a corner store, a hardware shop, a restaurant with an intact back door, and their mind locks onto the contents before they have studied the structure, the street, the exits, or the people around it. They are mentally inside the building before they have physically crossed the road. That is how they get pinned. Every urban location has at least 3 versions of itself. There is the building you think you are entering. There is the building as it actually functions once you are inside it. And there's the building as it becomes when somebody else notices you are in there. That last version is the one that matters most. Because the moment you start scavenging, you stop being a passerby and become a stationary target with divided attention. Your hands are full. Your hearing is distracted by your own movement. Your eyes are scanning shelves instead of windows. Your time horizon shrinks, and the building around you changes from opportunity to containment. Before you step inside any structure, you need to answer 5 things immediately. What is my primary exit? What is my secondary exit? What line of sight do I lose once I move past the entrance? What sound will my movement make in there? And if I have to drop everything and run in 5 seconds, which direction gets me out of the area fastest? If you cannot answer those questions, you are not scavenging. You are volunteering to be trapped. That means you do a slow pass first. You study the front, then the side if it is accessible, then the rear if it can be reached without exposing yourself more than the entry itself would. You note broken glass, blocked doors, deadbolt patterns, signs of recent traffic, shadows behind windows, and whether the interior forces you deeper before you can turn around. The best targets are not the richest ones. They are the ones with clean exits and low commitment. This is what amateurs never understand. In a city collapse, the value of a location is not measured by how much is inside it. It is measured by how quickly you can break contact if the situation shifts. The survivor does not fall in love with the target. The survivor stays loyal to the escape route. Rule number 2. If the approach feels easy, assume you are being invited into a bad decision. Cities are deceptive because they are built to look accessible. Wide sidewalks, open parking lots, straight corridors, glass storefronts, clean entry points. But easy approaches are exactly where the danger concentrates, because everything and everyone can see them. The natural path is usually the most observed path, and in a collapse, observation is risk. People drift toward what feels simple: front entrances, broad intersections, parking lot cut-throughs, main hallways, lobby staircases, large open aisles. And because most people think the same way under stress, those same zones become the places where movement overlaps, conflict happens, and the careless get noticed. An easy approach is not a gift, it is a stage. If the front of a building gives you a wide, comfortable line straight to the door, what it also gives anyone nearby is an uninterrupted view of your face, your clothing, your gear, your pace, and the exact moment you commit to entry. That means if someone wants to follow you, ambush you, avoid you, or simply wait for you to come out heavy with supplies, you have already done the hard part for them. You identified yourself in full daylight and told them where you are going. This is why smart scavengers approach indirectly. They do not move like they are arriving. They move like they are passing through, observing, drifting, deciding. They avoid making the target obvious until the final moment. They use cover, parked vehicles, utility structures, fences, recessed doorways, delivery alleys, and shadow lines. They study reflections in windows instead of staring openly. They pause in places that do not look like pauses. And they never cross a large exposed zone unless the reward justifies the visibility. You are not trying to look aggressive. You are trying not to become memorable. That matters more than people think. In a city under stress, your first layer of protection is not what you can fight. It is what you can prevent from focusing on you in the first place. The less cleanly people can read your intentions, the safer you are. The person who looks like they know exactly where they are going attracts attention. The person who blends into the broken rhythm of the environment often gets ignored. And ignored is one of the safest things a scavenger can be. Rule number 3. Never let a valuable find slow you down enough to get you killed. This is where greed starts disguising itself as logic. You find something good. Water containers, batteries, medical supplies, copper wire, hand tools, fuel additives, dry food, filters, blankets. Suddenly your brain starts building a story around the haul. One more room. One more shelf. One more trip. One more trip. One more minute. And that is the moment your judgment begins to rot. Because urban scavenging punishes emotional attachment to discovered value. The moment an item feels too important to leave behind, it starts controlling your pace, your posture, your noise, your route, and your willingness to disengage. You stop moving like a person in danger and start moving like a pack animal trying to protect a pile of goods. That change is visible. And worse, it is predictable. Heavy loads, slow stair movement. Awkward loads occupy both hands. Fragile loads force careful steps. Bulky loads widen your profile in doorways and reduce your ability to pivot in tight interiors. Bags with metal contents create sound. Containers shift. Fabric snags. Plastic crackles. And every extra pound makes you less willing to abandon the haul when the area changes around you. That reluctance kills people. The rule is simple. Set a carry limit before you enter, not after you find something valuable. Before. Decide what your body can move with speed, balance, and silence. Decide what you can drop without hesitation if you need both hands free. Decide what fits your planned route, not your wish list. Then obey that limit like it is a law. Because the city does not care that you found the perfect battery, the perfect toolkit, or enough food for a week. If taking it turns you into a slower, louder, narrower, more desperate version of yourself, then the item is no longer a resource, it is bait. The experienced scavenger understands that survival supply gathering is not about maximizing haul size. It is about maximizing repeatable success. A modest load brought back 6 times is worth more than the perfect load that gets you cornered on the first trip. And there's something even more important here. The slower you move under load, the more your route becomes readable. Anyone who sees you can tell you are carrying something worth taking. Anyone hearing you can tell you are burdened. Anyone watching your strain can tell you are less ready to resist. In a dead city, visible effort is an invitation. Do not become a walking storage bin for somebody else's ambush. Rule number 4. Sound is your enemy long before people are. This is the rule beginners ignore because they are still thinking visually. They scan windows, watch corners, study rooftops, all of that matters. But in urban environments, sound travels through walls, ducts, stairwells, alleys, and empty rooms with an efficiency that most people underestimate until it is too late. You may think you are alone because you see no one. That means almost nothing. Someone 2 rooms over can hear a drawer get pulled open. Someone in the alley can hear a metal can roll across tile. Someone above you can hear broken glass under your boots. Someone in a neighboring unit can hear you trying the same door twice and know instantly that you are either uncertain, overloaded, or new to the area. That is all useful information to the wrong person. Urban spaces amplify stupid movement. Glass crunches, shelving rattles, hinges complain, loose signage taps in the wind, elevator shafts throw echoes, hollow corridors magnify footsteps, metal tools striking counters sound like alarms. And the most dangerous part is that your own activity rapidly trains nearby ears to your location and pattern. Once someone hears enough of you, they do not need to see you. They can map you. That is why good scavengers move with deliberate silence. They do not rush the first 30 seconds inside a location. They test the floor before committing weight. They control doors on the way open and the way closed. They place items into bags instead of dropping them in. They avoid loose debris fields, hanging metal, and unstable stacks unless the reward is exceptional. They do not speak unless absolutely necessary. And they do not work while emotionally excited, because excitement makes people loud long before it makes them fast. But there is a deeper level to this rule. You are not just controlling the sound you make, you are listening for what the building tells you back. A distant scrape, a change in echo, the soft impact of movement on a higher floor, air shifting through a suddenly opened door, a faint rattle that stops the moment you stop. These things matter. They are often the only warning you get that the environment is not empty. People imagine urban danger as sudden violence. Sometimes it is, but often it begins as an audio clue that gets dismissed because the scavenger is too busy thinking about shelves and bags and how much time they have left. Your ears should be doing half the work your eyes cannot. The person who hears danger first usually does not have to fight it. Rule number 5. Never take the same route twice if people can learn from your habits. Routine is comfortable. Comfort is readable. Readable gets you hunted. The first time you run a successful scavenging route, you feel smart. The second time, you feel efficient. By the third or fourth time, if you are not careful, you begin to feel ownership. That is when the route starts owning you instead. Cities teach observers quickly. Someone sees movement at the same hour. Someone notices which alley you favor. Someone figures out which building you enter and where you reappear. Someone spots the weight of your return load and calculates that if they wait in the right place for 10 minutes, they can let you do the work and then take the result from you at the worst possible moment. That is the hidden tax on repeat success. Visibility compounds. If you survive by scavenging, you must assume that every successful trip teaches the environment something about you, even if no one attacks, even if nothing happens, even if the streets looked empty. You do not know who is behind blinds, on rooftops, in parked vehicles, in upper windows, or watching from a distance because they were too smart to interfere before they knew your pattern. So you rotate approach routes, exit routes, timing windows, and even target sequence. You do not always go to the closest place first. You do not always return by the most direct path. You do not always move in daylight just because daylight feels safer. You do not create a visible trail between your shelter and your resource points. And you absolutely do not let your scavenging pattern draw lines straight back to where you sleep. This is where weak operators make the worst mistake of all. They succeed tactically and fail strategically. They bring home useful supplies while gradually teaching the city how to find them. A good route is one that works once. A good system is one that cannot be predicted the 5th time. That may sound paranoid. Good. Cities reward paranoia once the rules break down. Because after collapse, people are no longer just searching for supplies. They are searching for predictability in others. Predictability is easier to exploit than strength. If your habits become visible, you are already leaving breadcrumbs to your own disappearance. Rule number 6. If a place looks untouched, ask yourself why it is still untouched. This may be the most important rule of all because it cuts directly against the greed reflex. You find a shop, an apartment, a clinic, a maintenance room, a storage cage, a basement, a loading bay, and it looks almost perfect. Shelves still stocked, doors intact, no major signs of stripping, no obvious damage, no crowd remnants, no chaotic debris. It feels like you found the one smart score in a city full of scraps. Maybe you did. Or maybe everyone else saw something you haven't seen yet. Untouched locations are seductive because they imply value without competition. But in the collapse, real value gets discovered fast, unless something keeps people away from it. That something might be structural danger, it might be contamination, it might be exposure, it might be noise, it might be a territorial group nearby, it might be a building layout that traps entrance, it might be a dead-end floor plan with poor exits. It might simply be that the location is more visible than it first appears, and nobody wanted to get caught inside it. The point is this: an untouched place is not proof of safety, it is evidence that you are missing part of the equation. That means you slow down when everything in you wants to speed up. You study the dust patterns. Check whether access points are really unused or just resecured. Look for signs of observation. Smell for chemicals, rot, gas, or stagnant water. Note whether the silence feels natural or forced. Pay attention to whether the best-looking room is also the easiest room to trap. Ask why the back exit is blocked, why the door frame is clean, why the windows are intact, why the interior is visible from angles you had not considered. You do not need to be afraid of every untouched place, but you do need to be suspicious of them. Because in urban survival, the city rarely leaves obvious gifts on display for long, and when it does, those gifts often come with terms hidden in the architecture. This is what separates a scavenger from a scavenging-minded survivor. The scavenger sees availability. The survivor looks for the cost. And that is the real lesson beneath all 6 of these rules. Urban scavenging is not about courage. It is not about aggression. It is not even about resourcefulness in the way most people imagine. It is about controlled suspicion. The city is full of useful materials, hidden assets, salvageable systems, and enough overlooked value to keep a careful person alive far longer than the average panic-driven looter. But all of that value is wrapped inside risk, and the people who survive are the ones who never let the promise of supplies blind them to the geometry of danger. They think about exits before entry, exposure before access, speed before haul size, silence before greed, unpredictability before efficiency, and cost before temptation. Everyone else walks into the city looking for things. The people who last walk into the city looking for patterns, angles, sound, timing, and the one mistake that will not get repeated twice. That is why they come back, because urban scavenging is not won by the person who finds the most. It is won by the person who understands that the city is always asking the same question in 100 different ways. How badly do you want what is inside? And the right answer every single time is this: not badly enough to die for it,